Hi everyone, it's DeeAnn from Quilting Mayhem here, and today I'd like to show you one of my favorite techniques to do with my BERNINA B990. It's scanning what you have in the hoop and then sending it over to software to digitize, sending it back to the machine and letting it stitch out your digitizing. Today I'm going to use a panel that I found at Quilting Mayhem. This is from Dear Stella, and the reason I chose it is because there's 9 different images that I can work with here. And so for today, I'm going to use this cat chasing a butterfly. What we're going to do is we will first scan the image, then we're going to send it over to the software, digitize around the image to create some quilting stitches, and then we'll send it back to the machine and let it stitch out. So let's get started. Okay, now we are at the machine, and the first thing that we want to do is go into our settings. There's one setting that we need to change, and so we're going to do that first. So I tap here to get to my settings, and I'm going to go to embroidery, and we want to go to design position. It's the third option here, and we want to make sure that we're using saved position. The default is center of hoop, but for this we want to make sure that we use the saved position. So we can back out of that, and it wants us to choose from our embroidery library. We don't need to do that today, so I'm just going to click the X, and I am going to put my hoop on the machine. It's already hooped up, and all I have to do is attach it. And then to get to the scanner, we're going to come up here to our little hoop icon at the top. And you can see I don't have an image in there yet, so I'm going to tell the machine to scan what's in my hoop. Now this will take a couple of minutes. It's going to move all the way around. All right, now it will start to scan. And because I'm using the giant hoop, there's a lot of area, so it will take a couple minutes to scan. When you're scanning, I've done it with the presser foot on, but the machine will actually tell you to take the presser foot off, and you definitely don't want to have the needle threaded, because if your needle is threaded, that little thread tail is going to show up in your scan, and it just kind of makes a mess out of things. So I left my needle unthreaded, and I did take my presser foot off. And we're just about done with the scanning portion. Okay, now it's going to process that scan. There we go. And so I'm just going to hit the green check mark, and it will show me my scan in the hoop. Once my scan is finished, I can open up my software, and this is where I will digitize. So the first thing I need to do is bring the scan into my machine. And that's this icon right here, the sewing machine with the little arrow pointing up. So I'll just click on that, and I need to find my machine. It'll have a little green dot next to it, my B990. And I want to choose the hoop. That is going to be my scanned image. And it'll take it just a second to bring it in. There it is. And I am going to come up to my zoom scale, and first I'm just going to go to the hoop. Now, it's really important when you're in the software to choose keep hoop position. If you don't, when you send it back to your machine, it may not be lined up with your image. So I'm going to click that first, and now I'm going to start digitizing. I'm not worried about my thread color because I'll figure that out once I get to my machine. So I'm going to start with the open object tool, and I am going to choose just a single outline. These are quilting stitches, so I just need a single outline. I'm going to right click on that just to check my stitch length. 2.0 is kind of small. 2.0 millimeters is kind of small, so I am going to change that. I like a slightly longer quilting stitch, so I'm going to bump that up to 3.0 millimeter. So all I have to do is type in 3 and press enter, and now my stitches will be that slightly longer stitch length. I'm going to zoom in just a little bit so I can see a bit more of the design. The first thing that I want to do is just digitize around this square. I want this to be kind of a frame around this part of the panel. I'll use all left clicks to just digitize around this rectangle. And I'm kind of just using the outline of the scan. And when I get back to the beginning, I press enter, and there I have some stitches. Next, I'm going to zoom in on this butterfly just by dragging a bounding box around it. And now I can see this butterfly. I want to digitize in an efficient order so that there aren't any jump stitches or cut stitches. So I'm going to start down here, and I'm using left and right clicks as I go around. And remember, when you come to a spot where you're changing direction, you definitely want to use a left click. I'll put a little one in there. And remember, if we don't like something, don't like one of our clicks, we can always go into reshape before we send this back to the machine. Now here I'm just going to do a straight line. But on these, I will follow the shape a little bit more. Using a right click down at the bottom to create a curve. Oops. If you don't like a click that you've made, or if you make too many clicks in one spot, go ahead and use the backspace key to get rid of that click. And now I'm back at the beginning, but I want to add a little bit more detail in here, so I'm going to keep going. You can add as much or as little detail as you like as you're going along. And this will be good. So I'm done with that. I'm going to press enter to continue to create the shape. And I can see my stitches are pretty good, so I'm not going to reshape this at all. I am going to press escape because I want to turn off my open object tool for the moment. I'm going to go back to the hoop setting. And what I want to do, I want to copy this butterfly because I want to add a couple more in here to give it just a little bit more quilting. So I am going to draw a bounding box around that, and I'm just using holding down my right mouse button, and I will drag this over to where I want it. And then I want to mirror this, and I think I'll give it a little bit of an angle as well, and maybe move it down just a bit. There we go. And I can see over in my color film, I've got two butterflies now. I will right click and drag again and bring this one down here. And then I'm going to come back to the original, right click and drag, and I think maybe right about in here is good. So now I have just a little bit more quilting stitches on this. This is a small piece. I don't remember the exact size on it, but I don't need to have a ton of quilting in here. Next, I'm going to concentrate on the main part of the image, which is this cat and the little bit of grass down below. So I am going to zoom in again, and I am going to start with the grass, and I will digitize all the way around and the cat as well. So I'm going to go back to my open object tool, and I'm going to start some digitizing. Now I want this corner to be a little bit rounded, so I made a right click at the corner. Do the same thing here. And you don't have to be real precise about how you're digitizing, just so it looks nice to you. Let's see here. I want to left click there. I may need to, oh, that looks okay. Now around the tail. And I'm trying to digitize this all in one continuous line. I don't want to have, whoops, that one should have been a left click. I don't want to have a lot of thread cuts here. So I want to try and digitize in one continuous line. You may need to stop and think about it a little bit before you actually start your digitizing. And I didn't get around the other side of the tail, but we'll figure that out later. My screen will automatically scroll for me so I can get to the next portion. Oops, that one didn't land where I wanted it to, so a backspace. Kinda hard to tell where the top of this little paw is here, so I'm just kind of guessing. One more right there. And then we'll come down the front. I'm just going to press enter here. And I'm still on my open object tool. So I'm going to come over here and fill this in and press enter. And then what I can do is hit escape to get out of my open object tool. And I want to zoom out a little bit, and I'm going to just try and draw a line or a bounding box around the cat. There we go. Now I've got a bounding box around the entire cat. So I'm going to come up to the edit toolbox, and I'm going to choose black work run. That will connect those lines so that there's no jump in between where I added on that section for the tail. And all I have to do is press enter, and now that will stitch out as one. There won't be any jump stitch in there. I could add more detail. I could add more butterflies. I could even go in and add some stippling or some echo quilting. But for today, this is all that I want to do. So now I am ready to send this back to my machine. And I'm going to do that by clicking up here, write to card machine. And when I click that, I get an option box up here. You know what? I'm going to cancel because I forgot to save this. So let me file, save as, and I am going to call this panel quilting and press enter. Now I can go back. Once it's saved, now I can choose send to machine. Now I want to stitch this out right away, so I'm going to choose the needle. I could also choose to save it to my machine if I didn't want to stitch it out right away, or I could even save it to a USB stick. But we're going to go to needle, and it tells me that it has been successfully sent. So now I'll just click OK. And we will switch back to our machine view, and you can see that my design is in here and it's perfectly lined up with the image that we scanned. So now it's time to put our presser foot back on our machine. There we go. And now we can thread our machine. You may not get to see the thread as well as I would like, using my automatic needle threader to go ahead and thread that needle. And now I'm ready to go to the stitch out screen. So I will tap the needle icon here. One thing I want to do, because these are quilting stitches, I want to go ahead and turn my quilt settings on. That will turn off the thread cutter. It will add securing stitches for me, and it turned off the thread away. You can see that those are now grayed out. Because I chose the stitch length of 3 millimeters in the software, I don't need to go ahead and change my stitch length in here. I can just go ahead and hit the green check mark, and it's going to move into place. Remember, we have the quilt settings on, so the first thing that I want to do is put my presser foot down. I'm going to hold my thread tail and do a needle down, and it pulled up my bobbin thread for me, and I need to get my thread through that opening. There we go. Now I'm just going to hold those stitches on, hold those thread tails out of the way, and start stitching. Now I am going to stop my machine for just a moment. I just want to cut this thread where it jumped over for the butterfly. I don't have to worry about burying thread tails because it did add those little securing stitches at the start of the butterfly. Now it's going to jump over again and again after it does the securing stitches. I'm going to stop my machine and just clip that thread. Okay, that's the last butterfly, and now it's going to start stitching around the cat. And one more time. And now we can see what our black work run did so that it doesn't have any jumps in between. We're just about done. And there is our quilting finished. If we look at our screen, we have our little finish embroidery checkered flag. So I'm going to tap that, and it goes back up to the starting position. I'm just going to clip this thread, take it off the machine, and I will now need to clip that thread on the back side. So I can clip that out of the way. And here is, move this away just a little bit. There is our finished embroidery. Now I do have a couple little errors. It didn't stitch quite on the line here, but I'm okay with that. This is all quilted, and I can now turn this into a little wall hanging or use it in something else, whatever I want to do with it. So that is scanning and sending it to your software and then sending it back to the machine for the stitch out. I hope you've enjoyed this little tutorial. Keep on stitching.